Ben calling in from Texas. What's going on, Ben?
Hey, you know what's going on. What's good, Dan? Mr. Lancie, Dan, it's been a great show so far. Hopefully this call will be a little more satisfying than the last one. But I'm wondering if you guys are familiar with Project Blitz.
That sounds really familiar, but if you asked me what it was, I couldn't tell you.
It's the Christians' attempt to stack the halls of power with people of faith. So they're rushing the gates.
Yes. Was this was in that documentary that was on Netflix recently, right?
The Family.
Yeah, The Family. Yeah. Is that what you're talking about, Ben?
Sure. So I'm wondering what you guys think about this. To me, it's horrifying, and I'm not sure what you guys think of how we can go about counteracting this push, this very overt Christian dominionism.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I really agree with you. I don't know why there's a need for that. You know, not only must I believe, but I must believe what you believe, and or you must believe what I believe. I mean, it's really unfortunate. The best way I see to counteract it is to just call it out for what it is, and to show the hypocrisy and the need for power and how it's abused in many instances. It's so unreligious in a way. It's so unspiritual. I had a really unusual experience. A friend of mine, his mother, who was quite ill, and I don't know, she was 98 years old or something like that. She was in the hospital. He asked me to go and see her. He was out of town. She had to be taken to the hospital quickly and what have you. So I went there, and he was on his way on a plane to be there the next day. She thought of me as being the priest that had come to see her. And I thought, oh my gosh, how ironic. She did not recognize me. She didn't know who I was. And she thought that I was the priest. So I sat there with her, and she and I recited the Lord's Prayer, and we talked about other things. And I played in real life the priest.
Oh, wow.
And that is what I think is the best of what religion has to do. Those of us who are atheists or agnostic or secular, we don't really have anything to offer people who are dying. We can't come up with, and you're going to go here and you're going to see your friends and family and everything. It's a very stressful time, and we have not come up with any sort of anything about that. I have in my own belief system, as it were, my own senses, is that I'm on a wheel. It's the wheel of life. I've done what I was intended to do, and now I have to relinquish that, and my atoms go off. And it's a little, but it's kind of in the same world, but it isn't as codified as the religious world has to offer. Mm-hmm. But it has nothing to do with power. It has nothing to do with power. She and I sat there. I held her hand, and for the half an hour that I was there, I tried to give her as much solace as I could, and that's what I think is the best part of religion. And then I see all this other stuff, which is just nonsense, and hypocrisy and lying and money and all these things which should be anathema to people who are truly religious, who I respect. Mm-hmm. But so I think that in the end, if we keep on saying, listen, there's a difference between the Jerry Falwells and the people who are actually trying to do something. There's a huge difference between them. You don't want to go over there because they're going to politicize you. So that's that's
nice. Yeah. So Ben, talking about Project Blitz specifically, and just talking about Christian dominionism, I think is really fascinating, because when people make common criticisms about religion and stuff, they're really talking about, like John was saying, like the Jerry Falwell types, the ones who are making money and who are just kind of using it all for show. But there is another side of this, kind of movement that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is like the dominionist movement. These are groups of Christians who want to ascertain political power, and they straight up write it out. There's a couple of different, obviously they tend to be on the Republican side. Actually, I don't know any of them that aren't, but like they are. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who released this document a couple of years ago and got a lot of fire for it, because it was basically a Christian document on how to handle a Christian state and what to do with people who would not submit to that Christian state. And of course, he was really ostracized for it, but that's what a lot of these people believe in secret. And if you look in the sort of Oregon area in particular, not Portland, but like everywhere outside of that, and kind of, on that coast, you see these rural communities where they have these like Christian militia movements. And these are people who are militias. They're people with guns, kind of acting as, a pseudo military force, who do believe that, this is the way that they want to do things. And you're seeing some tension with them right now, of course, with the recent protests and stuff going on up there. Some of those guys are just kind of stepping into the scene, and they want to make a fuss too. So it does bother me. I think if violence comes out, and things kind of escalate, especially recently with these protests, I could see these militia groups definitely being a part of the problem there. But yeah, it's no surprise to me that people are voted in and are given these kind of political favors from these churches and stuff, who are some of their biggest donors, because we can't look at that. We have no access to a lot of these records because churches don't have the same kinds of regulations that other kinds of businesses or even nonprofits have to do. So it's unfortunate, and I wish it wasn't a thing, but it definitely is. So. What do you think,
it's
Ben?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
When you think you have a mandate from God, you can do things like manifest, quote unquote, manifest destiny, on a whole continent. You can have inquisitions. You can have crusades. I mean, there's no limit to the amount of damage you can do in the name of God when you claim, the prophet told you could do it.
Yes. And also it can be used against you. The fact of the matter is that the tide then turns, and all the things that you were doing that you feel justified in doing can also be done to you. And of course, at that point, everybody, they will be squealing like, "Oh, I'm a victim. I'm a victim." But that's the reason why it's, when there are discussions about separation of church and state, understand something. You don't want. This could be turned against you. What if all of a sudden the predominant religion is not your religion?
Yep.
So it's good for everyone to adopt these rules that have been set up. You can have any religion that you want, but you cannot put it into the state. Okay, there has to be a separation. That's going to help you now. It'll help somebody else later. So I agree with you. Everything has become very polarized without the appreciation that all of this can be used against you.
Yeah, totally. Well, Ben, that was a great call. Thanks for talking to us about that. I wish you well the rest of your night, and you have a good one. Yeah. Really scary stuff. It seems like you were saying, these beliefs, they used to be private for a lot of people. Now they matter to people more than ever. And they seem to indicate certain voting patterns as well. And I wish we could go back to a time where we could say, none of this matters anymore. But it totally does. And it doesn't look like it's going to change in the future. So might as well talk about it. Might as well see what we can make from it. And if we have to make compromises, but see where we can go. I think we got time, John, for one more call.